Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to an Anfield Index special on the window madness that's ensuing, people? Literally, transfer window number 2, if we're going to call it that, opened yesterday, didn't it? And we already knew this to an extent, but Liverpool are well out the blocks. Things are developing. We're going to be talking planes. We're going to be talking dads. We're going to be talking moves, confirmations, rumours, everything. There is a million different things going on, isn't there, at the moment in everything Liverpool and transfer related. I'm your normal host, Dave Davis, coming to you from a pretty nice Edinburgh as it stands. So fingers crossed it stays that way throughout the day. But here to look at everything that is going on. And it's funny that last night, me and Trev did the transfer show and went through 1,001 different things. And even since then, just in the 12 hours plus, there's so much sort of come out. There's so much going on. There's so much that's been said. There's so much we're tracking. So let's get into it straight away, ladies and gents. And what are the latest on many, many developments? Well, the first thing is, it is set to be Florian Verz week. And the reason we open with this, whatever gets said, nothing will beat this in the transfer window. I hope I'm saying that, and almost the words are rammed down my neck because it gets even better for us. Don't get me wrong, but the Verz hit, the dopamine, the fact that we now know, as according to various reports, that this move should be signed, sealed, delivered by the close of the week, by Friday. The medical is booked for Thursday, as far as we're aware, according to different reports. So we're going to be getting his plane coming in. We're going to be getting his shots. Is it a Mercedes Vito? They'll come back in the mix as well. We're going to be getting the announcement, the interviews, I turned down Bayern, I turned down City. This was the project I picked, how I want to earn various trophies. Let's not just glide past that willy-nilly. That is going to be so special when it finally gets announced this week. And we are on Tuesday. And speaking of this week, I mean this one. Milos Kirk, who, according to social media, has winked, given the eyes, liked a million different Liverpool players' posts. Even did anyone see that his brother the other day shared that one, the social media post that had Milos Kirk going to Liverpool, his favourite club, but he supports, I think it was Partizan Belgrade, if I'm right. The cat had been well out the bag by then, but the cat got chucked out the bag within the last 12 hours. So just in case you missed it, shout out to Adam P. It is on the screen there that it looks like flight trackers are back up and running, aren't they? Flight trackers assemble, because it's a NetJet. It is a Tivat. And why am I saying that? Because according to various reports, Milos Kirk was in Belgrade and has taken a flight to Tivat. And as we speak right now, if this is correct, Milos Kirk is in the air heading to Blackpool. And since Jurgen Klopp days, we know what happens when you land in Blackpool, don't we? And what unfolds from there. But shout out to Adam P, as it says here, approximately just after 2 p.m, there is an expectation, if this is correct, that Milos Kirk lands in Blackpool. And we know we're fully aware of the direction of travel that's around this one. And Kerkez has given hints. Kerkez's brother has given hints. Did anyone clock this last night? Now, I actually, when I first was messaging about this, got the details wrong, because I thought, Kerkez, Hungarian international, brilliant. I'll message some Hungarian friends about this apparent interview, and was told quickly, this isn't Hungary, this is Serbian TV, because that's where his family's from. So got that wrong straight away. Every day's a school day, eh? And then, I'll be honest, there's only one Serbian person in the world that I know. So shout out to Mila. Hello if you're watching, for probably annoying you and giving me the courtesy of watching the interview with Kerkez and his dad and giving me an insight into what they were saying. Because the reason I say that, it's always, I believe, people do it with the best intentions, but interpretations, they'll phrase things lost in translation as well. So I always like to get it from someone that I trust. So shout out to Mila on that. But let's deal with a few negatives, I think, on this. First of all, Kerkez, as you can see in the photo, holding a Liverpool flag. Kerkez himself talking about coming to Liverpool. Kerkez signing Liverpool shirts, which you're thinking, well, why are you saying that's a negative, Dave? Well, other players who've left our club have done that before, and we've not been best pleased. Let's just be crystal clear on that. We've all made comments. We'd be hypocrites if we said anything to the contrary or anything different around that. So that comes into the mix. The second thing in the mix for me around this whole Kerkez situation is Liverpool, Slot, Hughes, Edwards, whoever you want to say, they like to move in stealth, don't they? Do their business swiftly, but quietly. And there's evidence of that galore. I mean, the whole Florian Verz being flown over, going, doing the tours, picking his house, whatever that involved, that's only broken after it happened. The fact that before that, Slot flew out to the south of France to meet Rayan Cherki, didn't he? And have that meeting, interview, whatever you want to call it, scouting operation chat before they made the move from Verz. That was broken by Ornstein, wasn't it? But again, after it had happened. So Liverpool like to do things on the QT. I just wonder how they feel about Kerkez and his dad going on Serbian TV. Kerkez and his dad being so direct. And by the way, as I'm saying this, and I mean as I'm saying this, they were very flattering of Liverpool, Kerkez and his dad, weren't they? That I never thought I'd see quotes from a dad like this that, as given to me, Milos Kirkez's dad saying, Richard Hughes brought us to Bournemouth. If he said we go to India, then we go to India. Everything is pretty much agreed. There's just some little things to sort. I mean, dads have talked before, and especially around Liverpool. We're not always a fan of when Papa Diaz talks, and we think about the comments he's made and the interviews he's done around Barcelona. Weren't a fan of that. Alexis McAllister's dad kind of talked about Madrid, then backtracked very well to say, no, my boy's happy and he's doing well. And so we're on side with Big Carlos at the moment. Papa McAllister, no issues at all. We seem quite happy, it seems, with Papa Verz, who's set to come, don't we, as well? All about his son, the sporting project, and that is what has nudged his son towards Liverpool. So, level-headed, all about the career, not just the money. So that sounds good, doesn't it? Okay. But Papa Kerkez here, it's just, it's unique. It's wild to me. I have never seen a situation like that for a dad to sort of make these comments, do an interview, and it looks like he's almost coordinated it for his son. And other things that Papa Kerkez has said that maybe it sounds good for us, I get it, but it's only Liverpool for us. And we're not going anywhere else, and we won't talk to other clubs. I mean, that sounds brill on the surface, doesn't it? Everything is done between us, such as the personal terms. We just need to sort out some small details, but it's basically a done deal. Wild. Absolutely wild that a dad is on TV with his son saying these things. I mean, don't say cat out the bag, but, honestly, wild's the only word I can use. It's worth mentioning as well, Milos Kirk was doing his PR bit when he was talked about or asked about this interview. Funnily enough, toughest opponent he's ever faced, Mo Salah, which is realistic and truthful, but the perfect PR answer, isn't it? Best stadium, away stadium he's been to, Anfield, is in the atmosphere, the effect it can have. Again, straight down the ground for 4 in terms of PR training. And even the way he said it and getting that from Mila, you can hear the atmosphere and feel it in the tunnel. All sounds great, doesn't it? The one thing that I found interesting as well that Mila gave me is from this interview, his dad almost takes over from the interviewer at one point. It's almost like a round table. It actually looks like the overlap set, as a few people have pointed out. But there was audience members there as well. That his dad interrupts and go, "You believe in Liverpool and you're going to Liverpool, aren't you?" At which point Kerkez nods and said yes. I mean, so his dad's even hijacking the interview. I don't know how Liverpool family events work, but tell you what, if he's still here, Papa Diaz, Papa McAllister, Papa Kerkez, Papa Verz, 4 very different characters, but what a drinking circle that could be. Dancing, serious conversation, stern faces, stern words, maybe knocking back shots with Richard Hughes, who knows. But in terms of side story for the transfer window, we're all waiting on this news, aren't we now, for Milos Kirk? It's all just about the fee. Bournemouth have signed their replacement. I don't think anything gets more wild than this. And LAPS20 saying we need more dads like that. I don't know. I bet Richard Hughes is thinking, I'd probably deal with Papa Verz before I deal with Papa Kerkez going forward. But who knows? And I'd say, who knows what goes on behind closed doors? Well, freaking Papa Kerkez is telling you everything, isn't he? So there we go. That was just a crazy side note. Kerkez and his dar, eh? And then the other big developments, which we talked about on air, but dream versus concrete. Thinking, why the hell are you saying dream versus concrete? Well, dream. Fabrizio Romano mentioned it in threads that, and he said it before, we've said it umpteen times before on the transfer show. Alexander Isak, the 26-year-old Newcastle number 9, is the dream option for us. And as I said the other night on the transfer show, get it out your system now. Get out the injuries galore. He's always injured. Get out there. We're never going to pay that price. Newcastle are never going to sell him. They're in the Champions League. I am not disagreeing with any of that. I still think this is highly unlikely. And quite often, as the word is there, a lot of dreams are called pipe dreams, aren't they? Yeah, because of the nature of what we talk about. So I still think this is highly unlikely. But as we said on the transfer show late last night, that our info, and as this came out afterwards as well, Liverpool are still in and still trying for Alexander Isak, however unlikely it seems. And also, as we said, as our information via the transfer show and various sources, that Newcastle do like some of Liverpool players, Diogo Jota being one. Does that mean automatically there'll be a swap, a player plus cash deal? No, of course it doesn't. But that is the info that we're getting. So we're bringing it to you. Again, almost wild. And Edwards, Hughes, Ward, whoever we know how slick, how shrewd these are as operators. The fact they're still in and trying for Alexander Isak means there's something there, people, as we know. And the injury bit, I sort of tried to dig around this, messaged a few people, and actually got a response back from someone involved in the medical side. There was a couple of things that came up for this. I don't know how small this is on your screen, apologies. But in terms of the injuries last year, there's 2 things that the medical side said to me, that previous injury is the best indicator of future injury. As in, if it's happened once, it'll likely happen again. If someone's regularly injured, they'll continue to be regularly injured. It's very rare that it changes. So that's the first point to make. But the second point, and then I hadn't clocked this, hands up to it, is it was put to me, say, by that medical side around there's a difference between impact and muscle injuries, and you have to separate the two a little bit. They can be linked, but you should separate the two. And if you look at Isak last season, missed 9 games. 7 of those, as it says there, were through a broken toe. Whereas hamstring injury, and groin injury, that was a game of peace, according to Transfermarkt there. Now, I think it's fair to say, some people will jump on this, there were games that Newcastle, I think, rested, left him out, so we're never quite sure. There's talk of a hamstring injury there as well. So you're never 1,000% sure how this works, but important to know. And the other thing that was said, and maybe you sometimes forget these things, just in the league as well, Isak played 2,756 minutes. And in fact, important to say, Newcastle didn't have Europe. So yes, you could argue rest during the week. But last season, Isak played 3,324 minutes. I don't know, people, how you put it, but when you look at all that, and just as it was put to me, it did make me think again that we will just say, Isak Croc, forget it. And I'm still saying that I'm not sure he's the best option. There's others I'd rather have, like Julian Alvarez. That seems to be dead, doesn't it? That seemed to get shot down completely from Romano this morning. However, Liverpool seem fully in for Alexander Isak, who netted 23 goals and 6 assists in the Premier League. 27 goals in all competitions. It still feels unlikely, but until this death knell hits it, if you want to call it that, and Liverpool move on, it's still there. That's the dream signing, as Fabrizio Romano called it. So now we've got to move to the hard reality. And sometimes, especially in terms of flooring, when you hit there, hard can involve concrete. And that is exactly how Fabrizio Romano described Hugo Eich, the French player, striker for Eintracht Frankfurt, 22 years old, the concrete option. Now, for this one, personally, and we'll see what happens, we'll see what develops, I get the feeling this is where Liverpool end up on. That if you can't get Isak, if you can't get Alvarez, it feels like this is the next name on the list, cab off the rank, whatever platitude you want to use for Hugo Eich. And this, if you look at social media, divides a fan base, doesn't it, somewhat? Because on the surface, you'll think, between the Bundesliga and Europa, 19 goals, 11 assists, so 30 goal contributions seems decent, doesn't it? And the other way that it was put to me as well this morning, that in terms of when you look at the things he doesn't have compared to Isak and Alvarez, you should start looking more at the things he does have in terms of he's a shot monster. He's got a decent XG per shot. And if you look at where he scores his goals from, they're not that similar to the Spurs blockbuster that a lot of people have clocked, it was also said. Good in possession, good carrier of the ball as well, and rapid. So that comes into the mix as well. I think that the main thing for people around Hugo Eich is Eintracht Frankfurt and Marcus Croce saying specifically that 100 million euros, that's the price out there, isn't it? Around the just over 80 million mark. But again, as we said on the transfer show, that Hugo Eich wants to come to Liverpool. You just wonder, is there any wiggle room in that price? What would Liverpool go to for Hugo Eich if they can't get Alexander Isak and they can't get Julian Alvarez, which seems the more likely scenario at the moment? So you fall on this guy. And whenever you look at his stats, it's always important to say he's a Bundesliga. So if, as analysts will tell you, there's a 0.14 variation. So that's what you'd knock off from his statistics against the Premier League. But, so he said he's a carrier, 96th percentile. Successful take-ons, 96th percentile as well. Shot creating actions, 3.5 per 90 minutes in the 94th percentile. We mentioned all those things. And other things to reference, carrier, 301k over the Bundesliga season is impressive. And that top speed, 35.53 kmh. It's not in the absolute whippets of the 36ers, but it's electric. It's still very quick. So all that just starts to add up. And honestly, as it stands right now, I do think when it's called the concrete, this is the real option that will happen for Liverpool. I do think, and proved wrong. And listen, I didn't think we'd get Verz. I was proved wrong on that. So I'm happy to be proved wrong again. That Alexander Isak will fail. Julian Alvarez will fail. And this is where Liverpool will end up. The ultimate judgment on these two, I think, which I see a lot of people reference, is it's the now versus the future, as well as the dream versus the concrete. Ekitike is one signing that may take a bit of time, I think, as people believe, till be fully proven. Yes, he'll be better than what we have now, but it may just take a year or maybe more for that to develop. That's the fear. And I understand that fear as well. And part of that fear linked to the fact that your Alissons, your Van Dijks, your Salahs have only got a few years left at Liverpool. And it's maybe a win now, not in the future. And if you are going to grasp the biggest prizes, yeah, it's great to add Florian Verz, but you need the striker, you need the 9 for now. And if anyone's doubting this, as Lewis Steele mentioned, Liverpool's next target, Liverpool's next aim is a number 9. The dream versus the concrete. I think it'll be the hard landing on the concrete, but we will see what develops with this one, ladies and gents. And another name, an old name that we've been linked with, but a young player very much, came onto the docket last night. David Ornstein put it out as we were on the transfer show that Chelsea is speaking to Malik Fauana. He's the latest left winger they've targeted because they've tried for a few, and Nico Williams looks like he's Barcelona bound. The next cab off the rank for them is Malik Fauana, the Belgian international at Lyon. However, his agent's spoken in the past about liking us. And now L'Equipe put out as well that Liverpool could make a move for Malik Fauana if another attacker leaves. And you never know, because we'll talk about Darwin Nunez. There's questions now around Luis Diaz, isn't there, as there's been for a while. So it does feel like it has to be the clubland scenario where one out to get one in for Malik Fauana. But his name is back on the docket. That's important to say. And it does feel like, as we talked about on Transfer Market Metrics before, an interesting signing, if it was to be the case. That if you look at his headline stats in Ligue 1 and the Europa with Lyon this season, 11 goals and 5 assists, 16 goal contributions. For a 20-year-old on low wages, as reported, there's real talent there. I don't think you could dismiss it. And if you look at his absolute best statistics on FBref and what he highlights best, there's key things to say, which are evidence there. I mean, 98th percentile progressive carries, nearly 7 per 90. He's a carrier. Diaz is a carrier, isn't he? So maybe that comes into the mix as well. Decent as well. I mean, he gets it high up the pitch. Progressive passes received in the 90th percentile as well, nearly 11.5 a game. So he gets it high and he moves it. Carries it well. You could see this one, couldn't you? Again, I'm not sure it's a first choice, one they're absolutely wanting to do, but you could see Malik Fauana being one here that Liverpool are looking at. Is he first choice? I wouldn't be sure on that. But for a young player, if Liverpool are going to make those development signings, which you don't mind seeing as well, we should be in that market. We never want to be the third link in the chain where we're spending tens, hundreds of millions. We want to get them early, don't we? I know people will talk about multi-club here, but there is a lot to like around Malik Fauana as a player. So we'll see if anything develops with this one. One situation that is definitely developing more and more. I mean, it's 99.99% certain that Darwin Nunez will not be a Liverpool player by the end of this transfer window. And Early on, we all hoped Saudi would be the bag, wouldn't it? That would help us with the moves, but doesn't seem to be the case, does it? And we mentioned this on the transfer show, and there's been other reports to it. The suggestion is that Nunez wants to remain in Europe. Ideally, Spain, because that's where his wife's family are, and that's where he has the homes, etc., would be the ideal scenario. But this one seems to be really heating up, if that's the right phrase. Darwin Nunez to Napoli. It's almost moved in the last 24, 48 hours from they're aware of it to now, as that Fabrizio Romano tweet that came out, I think, what time is it? Late last night. There you go, 11:15. Discussions between Napoli and Darwin Nunez continue as he's high on the shortlist. Talks are ongoing with the players' camp and scheduled this week. Nunez also has proposals from the Saudi Pro League and European clubs. I mean, that's not bad to hear that there's options. I suppose the only downside for this to me is if it is straight cash, and this is important to say, if it is straight cash, you're going to get less from Europe, aren't you? You're going to get less from Atletico. You're going to get less from Napoli because of the way they operate. If it's a straight cash deal, Saudi's the one for you. However, maybe what would suit us better and what I think we'd all like is, now, Romano's already said about him being involved in an Alvarez deal seems highly unlikely from what he's heard. So I get that. But if you can do a trade in any way with Napoli, get it out of your system as I'm saying this. Get your AFCON, get your injury record, etc. All those things. If Liverpool want to win now and are after an elite striker, the man on the screen who's been at Galatasaray on loan, has 1 year left of his contract. Everyone, Napoli and him, want him to move on. Victor Osman, who has hit in all competitions there as it is seen, well, the Turkish Super League and the Europa League. 32 goals, 6 assists. He is a marksman, isn't he? And I get people will be saying that, well, you can't lose him and Salah for that month in AFCON. However, Liverpool have done it before with Mane and Salah, haven't they? In fact, last time it happened with Mane and Salah, you may just want to check what their record was like in that month. It's just an important point to make there. And as I bring him up on the screen, I've got him on FBref and overlaying with Alexander Isak as well. There's clear things that Osman brings you. You accept probably the deficiencies, if that's the right phrase, because you look at what he does bring you in terms of pure goals. Yeah, shots over 7 on average per 90 minutes. They're nearly 10 a game, 99th percentile for that as well. Touches in the box. Shot creating actions, 96th percentile, nearly 4 a game. Strong in the air, 91st percentile for aerials. And we look, as Bart's has always said, for our attackers to funnel and channel. So it's more about blocks, you could say. But it's also important to note when you stick him in terms of the defensive side, interceptions is 96th percentile as well. So there is, if you focus on the strengths, a hell of a lot to like. What also terrifies me beyond belief, there's people in the chat panel mentioning Chris Wood here of all people. So I don't know where that's come from at all. But strikers we've got to talk about and keep in the mix right now. Isak, still highly unlikely. Alvarez, still highly unlikely. Osman, maybe tenuous, but been moved for before. Still feels highly unlikely, doesn't it? And Hugo Eich, where I personally think we will end up on. But we'll see how all of this develops. And the final sort of real story in the mix on this, people, right now, is the Robbo side. Now, this has been tweeted, I think, is it this morning or is it late last night? There you go. Yeah, just a couple of hours ago, literally, from Fabrizio Romano. And this is, I want to say stage because that's too strong, but just look at this tweet. At this stage of the summer, Andy Robertson has made no decisions on his future yet. He will take a break and discuss everything with Liverpool, having great relations with the club and full respect. There's no talks on the fee, and that'll happen until the player decides on his options. Now, this is a little bit of a walk back on what was released before, and we said this on the transfer show. Our info is that Rob will be very keen on the move, that with a year left on his deal and having spoken to the club where there's no renewal, sort of suggestions even forthcoming, this feels a great move, doesn't it? And I get that as well. Achieved everything he could possibly achieve at Liverpool. Walking legend, of course he is. Done great things, great personality, great leader around the club. Wouldn't debate that for one single second. However, even when declining, I mean, we see even then he's ahead of Simicast, but he's been at the scene of the crime a lot this season. This just feels a dignified and right move. And our info is that Robbo's keen on this. And Liverpool, for a nominal fee, and I'll let you put your figures around that, and those wages off the books, wouldn't be too sad, because we know Kerkez is coming in, and Kerkez, they fully believe, can do the 3,000 minutes plus for next season. But the big thing was around the agency, wasn't it? And whose brother is involved with Robbo's agency, and people have got all the thoughts about that. It just feels like a little bit of a walk back to be, as it says, respectful. And it's funny how this has come out, with Liverpool having great relationships with the club and full respect, which Robbo does, no doubts about it at all. It just may be a little bit different from the agency for obvious reasons, as we know. So that is another one to watch in terms of developments there, isn't it? I mean, ladies and gents, Tuesday of this week, and what are we expecting already? If you missed it, we are expecting Kerkez to land at some point and a fee to be agreed. We're expecting our Verz interviews, our photos, more plane tracking for him to land. We know Isak is the dream option. Liverpool are trying. We're probably all waiting for that to be shot down. I even missed, will we get more drama installments for Papa Kerkez? Who knows what the fathers of Liverpool players will bring? Will we be built on concrete? Because we expect probably, if Isak, Alvarez and nothing comes to fruition, that Ekitike seems the most likely option. Fee dependent, important to say. Malik Fauana, we're waiting around Diaz, aren't we? And the Barcelona option seems short. But if someone exits, could he come into the mix as well? And then we're all waiting to see where Nunez finally ends up shifting to. Maybe some of us are manifesting a Victor Osman, because if we can't get an elite attacker like an Isak or an Alvarez, maybe this is the next elite, because Liverpool might, as many of us think, when these elite players, your Salahs, your Van Dijks, your Van Dijk, Salahs, Alissons have only got 2 years left, too many names. You've got to win for the now. But who knows? And when you're talking about those great players like Van Dijk, Alisson and Salah, maybe, just maybe, we're expecting the departure of another one of Liverpool's greats. All this in the last 24 hours. It's only Tuesday. What a week it's going to be. As ever, we will try and bring you everything we possibly can on Anfield Index to keep you updated, keep you informed. The window of all windows it is right now. But on Tuesday afternoon, the 17th of June, that was another Anfield Index special.